We're back with another tier list of a board game shelf. What's up, everybody? My name is Nick Murphy. I'm one half of the Brothers Murphy. We're going to be going over another shelf, and we're going to be tier listing this shelf. If you don't know what a tier list is, it looks like this. Things that are the worst go on the bottom, things that are the best go on top. Now, the problem is we don't really have games that we don't like in our collection, because why would we? So having something down here in the D tier wouldn't really make much sense, so we made our own tier list ranking, and the lowest one is going to be, it's fine, because really, every game we play is honestly, it's fine. So it'd be, it's fine. It's a good little game, a great game, a banger, and then Dum Dum Fuego Fire, and that is the absolute top. And we're going to be talking about this shelf right here. So down in the comments already, let me know what you've ever got on this shelf. We're going to start talking about Prague and Kaput Regni right now. This is a game by Vladimir Suki and Delicious Games. And this is a game where you're building up the city of Prague, and you are building it up. And so it's got this interesting action selection where there's this kind of big, it's kind of hard to see here, there's this kind of big wheel right here which has these action tiles on it. And these action tiles will have two different actions on them. When you grab one of those tiles, you will get to choose one of those two actions, and it'll also have some kind of associated bonus on it as well. And then you're going to do that action. There's a whole bunch of different ways, a whole bunch of different avenues in this game, which is one thing I really like about it. And one thing I really like about a lot of Vladimir Suki games is usually there's a lot of different avenues you can kind of go down. I actually just played this game at Dice Tower West, and I was reminded how much I freaking love this game, because you can build up the main plaza, you can build up like walls around your little city, you can build the King's Road, you can work on the bridge, you can work on the cathedral, you can work all these different things. And like a lot of Vladimir Suki games, you don't have that many turns in the game. There's always a big time crunch, as there almost always is in Vladimir Suki games. And one of his favorite games that we love is Woodcraft, which is a newer game of his. And that is a game where you have 14 turns in the entire game. And that's it. This is pretty similar. I think there's like 16 or maybe 18. But like a lot of Vladimir Suki games, you can get things and turn things in to then get a second turn. And it's really, really fun. There's so many different ways to go out doing stuff, and there's a lot of things that like give you bonuses here, but then those bonuses kind of work for something else, and so there's this weird kind of balancing act you have to do in the whole game. I also really, really like the way this game looks. I think it's really cool and really pretty. I just really like Prague and Kaput Regni. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's a banger. It's not quite to Dum Dum Fuego Fire, although it's pretty darn close. I really, really like it, and playing again recently at Dice Tower West made me remember, like, oh yeah, that's right, I freaking love Prague and Kaput Regni. And so it's a banger. It's absolutely fantastic. If you like big, heavy Euro games, this is a good one. Give it a shot. Good. All right, moving straight on. So here we have Tidal Blades Banner Festival. This is by Druid City Games, and this is a kind of trick-taking game set in the Tidal Blades universe. I really enjoy what Druid City Games is doing with this universe, where they're releasing a whole bunch of different games that aren't similar in terms of the way they play, but all live in this world of Naviri, which is this world made by Mr. Cuddington, the art duo named Mr. Cuddington, and they're just so good at art. This world, the Tidal Blades world, is probably the best art in any game ever. It's just so amazing. It's this weird water jet ski world. And in this game particularly, in Tidal Blades, the first one, you are trying to be Tidal Blades, which are kind of like American Gladiator type things. In the second one, the one that came out on Kickstarter, you are then Tidal Blades. You've made it that far, and then it's kind of this big dungeon crawl game. And what this one is this game, you are like merchants at the Tidal Blades kind of American Gladiators Festival, and you're just merchants in the stands selling stuff. But again, it's all within that same world, which I think is so cool. But this is kind of a trick-taking game. Kind of. It's kind of hard to describe. Basically, someone will lead like the trick, and there are 4 different colors. There's yellow, kind of blue, teal, purple, and orange. So someone leads with a yellow, and then like a yellow 4, and then, but you then don't have to follow suit. You don't then have to play a yellow. You can kind of play whatever you want, and everyone will play something, and then you kind of resolve the trick, but kind of not a trick, because again, it's not really a trick-taking game. But basically, in each area of the arena, there is a hierarchy of colors. So down here in the teal area, you probably can't see it, but the highest ranking suit is teal, then purple, then orange, then yellow. So it always goes around. So teal, purple, orange, yellow. Purple is going to be purple, orange, yellow, then teal. And so in a different area, certain cards are stronger than other cards. And basically, once the trick resolves, everyone is going to get something. If you win the trick, you basically get to move the boat around, which is going to give you points to do certain things. If you're in the middle, say if you're playing a 4-player game, if you're the 2 people who are in the middle, you are then going to get to put your influence out in the stands out here, which is good because that will give you points. And if you're the lowest, you then get to activate the power that's on the card you played. Every single card has a power. And the cards go, I think, from 1 to 9. And so the 9 cards are really, really strong. But it's hard to have the lowest card in the trick be a 9. But you can do it, because if we're in the purple area, if you play a 9 teal and everyone else plays either yellow, orange, or purple, they're all gonna be higher ranked than you, and then you get to activate that 9 card. It's really, really cool. And so it's this interesting situation where sometimes you want to win the trick, sometimes you want to lose the trick, and sometimes you want to come in the middle. And no matter where you end up, something good is always happening. There's never a bad option. Being in the middle isn't bad. It might not be what you wanted to happen, but no matter where you land, something good is going to happen. It's really, really fun. I really like Tidal Blades Banner Festival a lot. I really want to try it more. The problem is that we probably want at least 3 or 4 people to play it with you. But man, I really, really enjoy it. I think it's an outstanding game. And again, it's set in this world, which I think is really good. I'm going to say this one is great, borderline banger, but I'm going to say this one is great right now. It's really, really fun. If we get to play it more at the player count I want to play it at, this might move up into the banger category. I think it's really, really fun and a big surprise. I wasn't really expecting this game to be quite as good as it was, and it's really, really fun. So Tidal Blades Banner Festival is really, really good. Ooh, Empires of the North. Oh my stars. Ooh, this box is lifting, and I can hear bad stuff. This insert in here is almost great. Empires of the North is the latest installment in the 51st State, Imperial Settlers, Empires of the North thing. They've kind of made the same game multiple times, but Empires of the North is my favorite. Empires of the North, you were taking different factions, all these different empires in the North. Little penguin faction, shouts out to Jamie from Foster Meeple, loves the penguin girl. And then each faction has its own unique deck, and that deck kind of has something that they do. And at this point, there's a whole bunch of them, because there's 8 in the base game, and then they come out with, I think, 4 other expansions. So at this point, 4 of the expansions each have 2 factions in them. So I believe at this point, there's like 16 factions, like 14 to 16, somewhere in there. And each one works differently. Some are kind of like fighty and kind of messing with each other. Some are just like, there's one that's kind of like a bank faction. You're just getting all this money, getting all this money. Some are doing this, some are doing that. Some are all about sailing and going to get different islands and stuff. They're kind of all over the place. But they all work completely different. You have your own deck. So this is different than Imperial Settlers, because Imperial Settlers, you had a faction, and your faction had some cards, but then there was just like a generic deck that everyone was going to be drawing from. In this case, there's no generic deck. The cards you have in your faction, that's all you get in the entire game. And I really, really like that. I like the specialized nature of Empires of the North. And this game, I'll tell you right now, this is our first Dum Dum Fuego Fire game. I freaking love Empires of the North. I think it's so much fun. This is one of those games where we break out a play, I go, Mike, just give me a faction. I don't care. Just give me one of them at random and I'll play that one. It's just so much fun to just grab the faction and be like, okay, let's make this faction work. How do they work? How do they play? Let's do this. It's really, really cool. And one thing I really like about Empires of the North is Empires of the North is a 2 to 4, actually a 1 to 4 player game. I've never played it solo, but I've heard the solo is really, really good. And there's about to be like a solo campaign that's about to come out, which I'm really, really excited. We're definitely going to get that. Mike and I are definitely going to play through it separately, of course. But this game is 2 to 4. I've played it all player counts. And honestly, it's great at all of them, because for the most part, you're not messing with each other too much, which we enjoy. There are certain factions that like mess with each other a lot, but not all of them do. And you can kind of just decide to not really mess with each other and just try and build your engine as quick as possible, because in this game is a race to 25 points. When you get to 25 points, you will then finish out that round, and whoever has the most points wins. And in a 2-player game, it goes fast. It is really fast. Like, it's like a half hour or less, at least for Mike and I, because you can get your engine up running pretty good. And there's sometimes where I'm almost like, kind of wish it was a little bit longer. Like, I almost wish it was to like 35 points, which I guess we could just make it 35 points. But this game is really fast, especially at 2 players. So at 2 players, this is one of those games you can bang out really, really quickly, maybe even grab 2 more factions, go again. It's just so dang enjoyable. I really, really love Empires of the North. I can never get enough of it. The second there's an expansion, we go boop, boop, got it, because I want everything. I want every single faction, and every time it's just like, give me a faction, I don't care what it is, I'm gonna play it, dum-dum, fuego fire. It's so good. Oh my gosh, I love Empires of the North so much. Alrighty. This is Ping Yao. It's called Ping Yao, the first Chinese bank. This obviously is in Chinese in here, so he doesn't say that on here, but this is a game that our good friend Shay gave us from RTFM Show. Make sure to subscribe. Shay gave us, he had to cover this game for Dorado, and he gave it to us because he was like, hey, I think this is like this, he described it as, it's kind of like this weird economic game where like, it's an economic game, but just the way it works is kind of odd and stuff like that. And he's like, but I think you'd like it. I think you'd like it. And so it sat on our shelves, and we hadn't had a chance to play it for a while. And then I was hanging out at a game day, and I was going to play a game with my good friend Candace and Amanda Panda, and they had this game out, and Candace is like, oh yeah, we're gonna play this game. It's this, and she described it exactly as shaded. She's like, it's just kind of like, it's like this weird economic game. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I saw it, I was like, oh, this is that one game. Okay. And here's the thing, Van. It's like this weird economic game. It's like this game where you're building out the first Chinese banks. And so it's a worker placement game where you have like the main board, and then you'll have your personal boards, which are like right here, and you're getting different like parts of the bank, and then you can put like workers inside those banks to like activate them, and you can like take out loans and then pay back those loans. But the whole thing is you need your bank to be, oh, what's the word? It needs to be backed by something, essentially. And so the backing for it is silver. So you need to have silver in your bank, because that's kind of the thing. It's like, because like money is not real, you know, in that kind of way. And so you kind of have to have that backing, that grounding of it, and that's in silver. So you're getting these different banks of these like different colors, in yellow, blue, and red. But you also have to have silver in those banks as kind of that backing for the bank. And so it's just kind of this interesting economic game where you can like take out loans and pay them back and do these things, and you're trying to get these banks, but you're also trying to get workers in those banks so then you can activate their special abilities. And it was good. It was interesting. It was good. The problem with Ping Yao isn't anything with the game. I just don't think we would ever, I really do want to teach Mike, because I played it but Mike didn't. So I still want to teach Mike to play it, and I do want to try it again. I'm going to give it a good game. Like, it's a good little game. And the reason why it's not higher is not necessarily because anything with the game. I just don't think we would ever reach for this game over a lot of other games. And it's not really like any other game, but any other like economic game or worker placement game or kind of engine building games, I just feel like we'd grab a lot of stuff before Ping Yao. And so it's good, but I don't think this would ever be the choice we go to. Would happily play it, still want to teach Mike. If someone else wants to play it, super down, but I'm gonna give it a good little game because it's interesting, it's good. I just don't think it would get picked over a lot of other stuff. And so Ping Yao, first Chinese banks, interesting game, good game, kind of a weird economic game, but cool. I also really like this cover. I think it looks really nice. But yeah, it's a good game, but I just don't think it would be the game we would choose over anything else, basically. But nonetheless, I still want to teach Mike it. All right, now we got the Quest for El Dorado. The Quest for El Dorado. This, I guess, is the older one, because now there's a newer version with like Vincent Dutrait art and stuff like that. But no, this one's fine. The Quest for El Dorado is a Rainer Knizia game. This is a great racing game, and it's a great intro to deck building game. But this is a racing game where you're going to have a big span of these big kind of like really, really big tiles made of a bunch of hex shapes. And basically at the very, very end is going to be the city of El Dorado, which is full of gold. And you are kind of archaeologists cutting your way through the jungle and like cutting down vines, and you're like swimming across water and going through markets trying to find El Dorado. The first person to get to El Dorado wins the game. It's just a big race to get there. But on these boards are essentially 3 different land types. There are jungles. And those jungles will require machetes to get through, because again, you have to cut through the forest, cut through the vines, all that kind of stuff, because it's just very, very packed in. You can come across markets, which will cost money to get through, because you're kind of going through that, paying money to buy stuff and keep it going. And you can have water, and you need paddles to get through them. So on your cards and your deck building, you have those symbols. You have machetes, you have paddles, and you have money for the most part. But then money on top of that is also how you can buy more cards. And so when you start off, the cards will have like one machete on them. And a one machete means you can move onto a one machete tile. There are all the different spots, and the spots can have one machete, two machete, three machetes, or even four. And the four machete tiles are obviously very, very dense. It's very hard to get through. And with this game, you can't use multiple cards to pay for one spot. So if I have two one machete cards, I cannot go to a two machete spot. I can only go to one machete spots for those. And so you need a two machetes on one card to go to that spot. And that's kind of where the market comes into play. The market will have a lot stronger cards, and you can buy those. They'll go into your discard pile and they'll shuffle back through. It's a deck building game. But this game, the deck building just seems to work really well. I think deck building particularly tends to work well when you're teaching it if something else exists in that game. And what I mean by that is like a pure deck building game like Dominion or something like that, that's all there is. And so for some reason, I find those to be harder to teach. Whereas this one, because it's a racing game on a board and you're moving your little archaeologist through, to me, because the deck building is not the only mechanic in the game, it makes it easier to teach, in my opinion at least. Maybe some people feel differently, but that's always how it feels to me. And so it's a really good, interesting deck building game because the deck building is pretty interesting. You're kind of like, I'm just going to get a better machete card because that's awesome. And there are other cards that do other things as well. But you can kind of explain those cards as they go. And it's really, really fun. It's just really, really good. These tiles here, you have a whole bunch of them. And in the box, there is a whole bunch of different setups for these tiles. Some are more difficult, some are more easy, or you can just set them up yourself. And just kind of make your own path. And it's just really, really interesting because the really dense areas, the parts that take like 4 paddles or take like 4 machetes to get through, that's essentially going to be a shortcut. On a tile, you're trying to get through tile to get to El Dorado. If you want to go, like if the tile goes here, here, and then here, you want to take the shortest path, right? You don't want to, it's like race, it's like car racing. You don't want to go on the wide one, you want to go the shortest path. But that shortest path is going to be dense. Really, really dense. So you're in this kind of weird spot where it's like, okay, do I try to go the short path, but maybe get stuck because you can't get to the point where you just can't move because you don't have like a 4 machete card? Or do you go the safer route and go around, which will take longer, but you know you can always move? And it's just really, really interesting decisions, but they're not like complicated decisions. They're just interesting, juicy decisions. Quest for El Dorado is really good. We also have the expansion in here, which is called something. I don't remember, but it's also really fun. And so yeah, Quest for El Dorado is absolute banger. If you want, it's gonna be a banger. It's an absolute banger. If you want a good racing game, a good intro to racing, intro to deck building, Quest for El Dorado, the good Dr. Knizia did a good job again. It's an absolute banger. All right, 2 more. We have Coloma. Coloma here is by Johnny Pack, and Coloma's cool for us because Coloma, this is a real place, is in Northern California. We grew up in Northern California. We're from Sacramento, and so like we've been to Coloma, which is cool, but it's like an old West town, right? You can see this is like an old West. I love like frontier themes because this isn't like, well, I guess this is kind of more Western themed than frontier themed, but I do like frontier themed games. And this is a good one. It's a simultaneous selection game, and it's a simultaneous selection game where if you generally don't want to choose the same action as somebody else. Everyone's choosing the same action at the same time. And if you choose an action alone, like you're the only person to do like, you know, there's a little wheel in the middle there, and those are the actions you're choosing. If you're the only person to choose that action, you will get the boom action on top of that, which is going to be essentially something extra. But if you choose the same thing as someone else, basically both of you or 3 of you or whoever chose it doesn't get the boom action, but everyone still gets to do the normal action. It's not like super, super punishing. You basically just don't get to do the extra thing. And there's a whole bunch of different parts of this that you can do. There is like a river, and you can like build up your river. You're getting these cards and putting them into play, which will give you like all sorts of abilities and all this kind of stuff. You can go up here and you're essentially exploring like the land outside, and you're putting down these little tents to kind of show like, oh, I've been out here. I put this little tent. There's also a bunch of bandits coming into town, so you have to put your dudes, and I mean specifically your dudes. Your little meeples are, their canon name is dudes. which I think is hilarious. So you're putting your dudes out and you're going out there trying to fight the outlaws, because if people don't fight the outlaws, then the outlaws come into town and mess that stuff up for everybody. So you kind of always have to be doing that as well. And there's a whole bunch of different areas in the game that you can kind of go towards. And it's really, really fun. And I really like simultaneous selection games in general. And I especially like ones where you're not overly punished if you go to the same spot as someone else. Sometimes that can be fun, particularly in a lighter game, but this is definitely like a medium weight game, and I don't want that much of a punishment if I go to the same spot as someone else. I don't mind some, like in this case, you just don't get the boom action. Okay, that's fine, but you still get to do everything else. I think that's great. This game also is like better at higher player counts because you want that interaction with trying to go to the same place as someone else. But in the 2-player variant, there is a dummy character. And based that dummy character is going to randomly be going to the different places. And that's mostly all they're doing. And it actually works really, really well. So this is a situation where like has a 2-player variant with a dummy character that actually works really well, because that's the part you want the interaction, which is on those simultaneous selection spots. And this one does that really well. Coloma's great. It's also got the Miko art, Mihailo Dmitrievsky, really, really pretty game. Johnny Pack knows how to make a good game. It's honestly really great. I'm gonna say a great game, not quite a banger, but it's a great game that we don't play quite often enough, in my opinion. I think we should probably play this one more, but it's really fun. Coloma's cool, and Coloma's nearby where we're from, so that's also very, very cool. So, last one is, I'm just gonna leave right here, because now I can see it and I don't have to hold it because my arm is getting tired. This is The Pursuit of Happiness. The Pursuit of Happiness is what it is, it's the game of life, like the mass market game of life. It's that, but a Euro game. That's what it is. It is called The Pursuit of Happiness. This is a game where you're trying to live a cool, fulfilled life. And you could do that in a whole bunch of different ways. It's a really, really fun game in terms of like the theme and the way the theme works, because you start off as like a teenager. So there's like limited stuff you can do. Like you can't really get like a job yet. You can't get like married yet and stuff like that, but you can like do projects and stuff. And then you grow into like an adult, and then eventually you hit old age. And what the funny thing is the game ends when everyone dies from stress. You will die from stress in this game. You will eventually die from stress. There's no way to not let that happen. And I just think that's a very funny way to end a game, for everyone to die of stress, but you will. And so you're basically trying to keep that from happening as long as possible by having a really cool life. And you can do a whole bunch of different stuff in this game. You can get different projects. Like you're like, hey, I want to be a writer, so I'm gonna learn how to write novels. I'm gonna go take ballroom dancing classes. I'm gonna buy a boat. You can get items like boats and a cool board game collection, or a cool video game collection, or like, I don't know, Fabergé eggs or whatever, a whole bunch of different stuff. And all those things will make you fulfilled, and you can work on them throughout your life, and you can kind of get more and more. So if you get like a boat, most of the item cards and the project cards will have essentially certain tiers on them. You'll start at the first one. So the first one for a boat is like, you got like a little dinghy. You got like a little rowboat, right? That's it, you know? You have to pay a certain amount of money for that rowboat. But then at a later turn, you can then upgrade that to the next thing, which means you're putting time into that item, you're putting time into that hobby. And so now you pay more money and maybe something else, and now you got like a little motorboat. You got like a little motorboat. And then you can go to like a big sailboat, and then you can go to like a big old yacht. And then that's kind of the end, and you've now like fulfilled that item's full potential, basically. And it's really, really fun. You can also get into relationships, and you can get in a relationship with whoever you want. You can have one relationship, you can have none, you could have 12. It's up to you. There's been times where I'm like, I'm just gonna marry as many people as humanly possible in this game. Like, I'm just gonna be in as many relationships as possible. And other games will be like, Mike has played games where he's like, I'm gonna have a bunch of relationships and no job and just see what happens. You can also get jobs in the game, and you can upgrade your jobs like you can upgrade anything else. Everything in the game is about getting something and then spending your time and your resources into it to upgrade that thing. So when you get into a relationship, you start off as you're just dating. You're just dating. And there are benefits to dating. But then if you want to invest time into that, the benefits will get a lot greater, because relationships are beautiful, right? So you can become like, you're going steady, right? And then you can get married, you know, and all these kinds of things. You can kind of keep upgrading these things. But here's the brilliant thing about this game. is this game, your workers, it's a worker placement game, your workers are little hourglasses. They're not hourglasses with actual sand in them, like sand timers, but they're just wooden shaped like hourglasses. Because everything you're doing costs time for the most part, because it's your life, and your time, way more than money, way more than anything else, is the most valuable resource in your life. It's the most valuable resource in my life, and how you allocate that time is important. And in this game, that's the whole theme. Because here's the thing, if you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the relationship, you're gonna have to spend more of your time towards that relationship to maintain that relationship. So at the beginning of the round, you have to do, I think, the refresh phase, and one of the things that you have to do is you have a certain amount of workers, I think 6 or something like that, but there are certain things that you have to automatically put your workers on at the beginning of the round, because those things just automatically take time. If you want a big, powerful job, like you want to be the CEO or you want to be the president, that's great. You're going to get a lot of money for doing so. You're going to get a lot of resources for doing so, but it's automatically going to take like 2 or 3 of your time at the beginning of the round. It's just automatically gone, because you automatically have to spend a lot of time on your job. If you want to be married with like kids and stuff, it's going to take 2 of your time just straight up at the beginning of the round, because you have to put time into those things. Different projects you have, different items you have, those things are going to take time automatically, because it takes time to maintain those things. And I think it's a really cool, really thematic way of doing it. And then on top of that, it's just bonkers, because you can do anything. Mike sometimes is like gone to dance school and also like joined a motorcycle gang and just all this stuff. It's just really bonkers, because you can do whatever you want. And it's just so cool. And the cool thing is, it has the best points in any game ever, because the points you're trying to get is long-term happiness. That's your victory points. They could have just called them points, but no, they're called specifically long-term happiness. That is what you're trying to get in this game, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. And it's really fun. And this is probably the most thematic Euro game we've ever played. Now, I know we literally just did a list of the most thematic Euro games, and we put this one on our supplemental list. For our top 10s, if you don't know, we put usually a supplemental top 10 over on our Patreon. If you want to check out the supplemental top 10s, join our Patreon today. And we did a supplemental list for the thematic Euro games. We put this one on that list. And then we were talking about it when we were doing that video, and while we kept talking, we kept being like, man, this game is so thematic. Man, this game is so thematic. And we kept being like, man, this probably should have been on the main list. Man, this probably really should have been on the main list. And now we think about it, we're like, man, this probably should have been number 1 on the main list. And yet it was on a supplemental list because we just didn't think about it at the moment. But nonetheless, I think it's one of the most cool thematic games that's so weird, just because of all the weird stuff you can do in it. And it just works. It works so well. I absolutely love playing with it. This is one of those games I don't think we'll ever get rid of, even though we don't play it that often, because it's just so weird and fun. And it creates so many good gaming memories, because all these times I keep saying, oh man, there's this one time where Mike joined a motorcycle gang, but he also became the president of the United States and all this kind of stuff. Oh, this one time, like Nick had like 12 husbands and wives and then also tried to have a job and it really didn't work out. And you just create stories, you create gaming memories with this game. I think it's outstanding. I'm gonna put it in the banger category. The way I praised it might make it seem like it's a dumb Fuego Fire game. The reason why it's only a banger is because the game itself is great and the mechanics are good, but it's not like the reason why the game is so fun is because of the stories you tell within the game, but the game itself mechanically is good. It's great, it's very solid, but it's not like mind-blowingly good. And that's the thing. The part that's so fun about this game is the stories you make in the game. And so that definitely puts in the banger category. It's close to Dumb Fuego Fire, but not quite that high. But it is so darn good. I love Pursuit of Happiness. It's just so freaking weird. It's so weird. I love it. And that is the shelf done. We have finished this here shelf. You can see our garage door back there. Look at that. That's the outside right there. Thank you so much for being here for another tier list. Let us know what you think down in the comments below about these games. If you've played any of them, if you haven't, which ones are you most interested in? Really love doing these tier list videos. Make sure to like and subscribe for more, and we'll see you later. Thank you so much for watching that tier list. What did you think of the shelf? Let us know down in the comments below. Oh yeah. Make sure to click the other tier list videos on the right side of your screen to check out more of our shelves. Indeed. We want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsors, Restoration Games, Lucky Duck Games, and Board Game Geek, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.